right, welcome everybody. Today is Tuesday, March 4th. This is the meeting of the Rules Confirmation and Public Elections Committee. I am detecting a quorum with myself, Vice Chairs Cash, Council Members Druffel, Rutherford, and Weiner being present at the beginning of every meeting. There is time set aside for public comment. There is nobody signed up for public comment here today, so we will move into our agenda. First up, we have resolutions. In this section, we only have 2 resolutions, so I'm going to go ahead and put both of those on consent, and I do see Chair Toombs joining us as well. Is there anything that anybody wishes to remove from consent? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and read them into the record. First on the agenda is RS 2025-1061, a resolution approving the election of certain notaries public for Davidson County. And RS 2025-1073, a resolution recognizing the podcast We Are North Nashville and its work documenting the history of North Nashville and the wisdom of its community elders. Those are the only 2 on consent. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and properly seconded. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? Got 6 in favor, 0 against to approve. Next, we have bills on second reading. So we've got, there's only 1 in this section. So it is BL 2025-754, an ordinance readapting the code of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, Tennessee, prepared by the Metro Code Corporation, including supplements and replacement pages thereof containing certain ordinances of a general and permanent nature enacted on or before August 20th, 2024. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? 6 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting to approve. Okay. Next, we will move into board and commission elections. This is the Health and Education Facility Board, consideration of a nominee for 1 vacancy. Nominee by Council Member Allen of Matt Wilshire. Mr. Wilshire present here today.
He was interviewed
We
at the
interviewed
last
him last
meeting.
Oh, he was? Oh, okay.
Yep.
Oh.
So he's on
I'm used to these being at the end of the.
We interviewed him last time.
Yeah. So we did speak with him last time. So it is properly before us, and it will go before the council today. I think there was a lot of discussion on that one last time. Okay, so Councilmember Weiner moves. Do we have a second? Moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move to a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? 6 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting to approve. Okay, so now we will move into board and commission appointments and nominees. Candidates in this category will be interviewed by us today and then deferred on the floor for a subsequent vote next meeting. So first we have the Advisory Committee on Transportation. So candidates, so consideration of nominees for 5 vacancies for a 2-year term taking place on, so the vote will take place for council next meeting, March 18th. First, we have a nominee from myself, Ms. Kaylin Russell. Could we get a chair moved forward here for folks? Kaylin, if you'll move forward here, please. Would you like a parking pass?
Yes, please.
Perfect. Thank you so much
Thank
for being
you.
here. Are you currently a Davidson County resident?
Yes, sir.
And do you serve on any other board or commission other than what you are being appointed to here today?
No, sir.
Okay, perfect. So tell us a little bit about why you want to serve.
Good afternoon. My name is Kaylin Russell. I currently serve as Advocacy Manager at the Equity Alliance. And during my undergraduate studies, I focused on public relations and advertising and a minor in Spanish. And I wanted to do more to use communications to help people than to sell products. And so I studied social justice at Vanderbilt. And my area of study was affordable housing, gentrification, and public schools and how they're all interconnected. And I was also able to complete an internship with Metro Nashville Planning Department in the Multimodal Division. And through that, I learned more about the city planning process. And so speed up just like 3 years until now, I work at the Equity Alliance. And through the Equity Alliance Fund last year, we were able to support the Transportation Improvement Program, the Choose How You Move initiative. And I created our literature, our talking points, and worked with our canvassers to distribute the information so that Nashvillians could know how this investment would benefit their everyday lives. All of that saying that my experience and my education and my interests make me qualified, and that's what made me interested in wanting to serve in this capacity.
Perfect. And so you talked a little bit about your experience and how sort of transportation is intersectional. and ensuring that we have equitable access and being able to move folks across the city in the most efficient manner. Could you talk a little bit more sort of about your viewpoint and how Nashville can move forward to equitably serve all of our communities and making sure that as we move forward in implementing the mayor's transportation plan, ensuring that folks can choose how they move and get around the city in an efficient manner?
I believe the transportation plan does have a great foundation to making Nashville the more equitable and a more accessible city. In ways I think that can be furthered is through continued community engagement and community voice. I've been working in a coalition with Shift Nashville, and we've held different kickoffs and canvassing initiatives to talk to different communities. So the Equity Alliance, we primarily serve Black Nashvillians, but we also work with Turk and Stand Up Nashville, which serve other demographics. And there's a lot of people who are in support of the transit initiative, but weren't quite sure what it would mean. And so we've conducted visioning exercises and different things like that so people could learn, ideally, if they got to pick, what would Nashville look like? Because sometimes development happens to us and not with us. And so I hope to provide an opportunity that development can continue to help with Nashvillians and that we can be a part of it. And I think that's a big part of equity, having a voice.
Absolutely. And I'll say part of the reason why I nominated Caitlin is one of the things that I talked about whenever I was running for this body was how a lot of what Nashville and Nashvillians have experienced are things that have been happening to us and not necessarily happening for Nashville. So making sure that we have folks on our boards and commissions, and specifically this one, that have an eye towards ensuring that each Nashvillian has proper communication, understands what they have access to, and being able to not only communicate that, but also move forward in having good, strong, principled folks on these boards. She's got my full throat support, obviously, as the person who nominated her. I speak very highly of her and would love everybody's support.
I have a question. Super impressive resume,
Thank you.
and very well spoken, and it's clear you have the passion. My question is, what obstacles, if any, do you see to being able to move forward, and how would you manage those?
Obstacles to me personally?
No, to the board, to the advisory committee, insofar as any external issues, any external headwinds that might get in the way of Choose How You Move. Now that we've passed it, we have to implement it. So what obstacles do you see, if any, and how would you move those forward?
Thank you for that. The obstacles that I detect, even without being on the board or serving on a board right now, are some of the narratives shifted in some of our federal and state administration about what kind of things we prioritize as a community, as people of Tennessee. And unfortunately, it looks like, to me, they're the minority are pushing for things that maybe don't benefit all people. And so being in like the majority but having less sometimes power, because working at this level of government in a volunteer capacity, I think an obstacle will be ensuring that we can find alignment so that we're getting the resources that we need from different levels of government, and also building hope and encouragement among the people we're trying to serve. I have spoken to people who are a little bit discouraged because of the state. Some people are losing jobs, and so that can make you question sometimes where your tax collections are going and things like that. And people don't always see this as a time of continued community investment and bringing everyone together all at once. So I foresee the biggest challenge, like some of the different political ideologies and the economic uncertainty. But I do believe that the work that you've done as a city council and that the mayor's done and that we hope to do, and all the community support we've accumulated for this moment to get it passed, will help us see it through for the next 15 years.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the committee? Seeing none, we'll take a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? 6 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, next we have the nominee from Councilmember Mike Cortez, Trent Bain. Trent, am I pronouncing your last name right? I'm
Close. It's Benj.
okay, perfect. Trent, thank you for being here. Would you like a parking pass?
I'm all good. I took WeGo.
Perfect. Well, are you currently a Davidson County resident?
Yes, sir.
And do you serve on any other boards or commissions other than what you're being appointed to here today?
No, sir.
Perfect. So tell us why you want to serve.
Absolutely. So, hi all. My name is Trent Benj. I'm a small media business owner, musician, and community advocate, born and raised on the Nolensville Pike community, and so I see this appointment to this commission as twofold. One, to advocate for my local community that has brought me up to be the man that I am today, and also to advocate as the youngest nominee to this board for a lot of our youth here in Nashville who will not only inherit this transit system, but also make up the largest cohort of WeGo riders. And so, on the Nolensville Pike point specifically, the Nolensville Pike projects have the longest implementation time across the entire transportation improvement plan, completing estimated in 2039. So to me, this isn't just going to a board meeting once a month for a couple of years and then being like, okay, that's it. To me, this is a decade-and-a-half long commitment to fighting for the vital, life-saving infrastructure that my community has desperately needed for decades, as now the Nolensville Pike corridor is one of the deadliest, if not the deadliest, in the entire city. On the youth point, like I said, young WeGo riders, especially high school and university students, and even young professionals like myself, make up the largest cohort of WeGo ridership. Like, down in Southeast, you don't really see that as much because none of our high schools are attached to the WeGo system, but if you've ever gotten on the 50 past 3 p.m. and ridden it till 6, you know that it's standing room only. And a lot of those folks on that bus are high school students, and folks that, like, I went to high school with that are still in school. And so, that advocacy growing up in an underserved community like Nolensville Pike, and knowing that our youth have not been routinely advocated for in the past in the city, that's why this appointment is so critical.
Perfect. Councilmember Druffel.
Yeah, hi. Love the passion, energy, and passion for your district. Now, there's 34 other districts.
Absolutely.
So how would you determine priorities for all the other districts? And how would you determine, and what's your thought process on figuring that side out?
Absolutely. Thanks for the question. The problems that face Nolensville Pike are not unique in the slightest. I mean, back during 2023, I went to the opening of James Lawson High School. And to get to the bus from James Lawson, there's now a bus stop there, but previously you'd have to walk 30, 40 minutes to a bus stop, often along roads that have no sidewalks. And students would have to put themselves in really dangerous situations. And so, scenarios like that play out across the county where folks are getting off in ditches and on dangerous sides of roads, unprotected bike lanes. And so not only do we need to advocate for that in Nolensville Pike, where I grew up, but across the entire county.
Do you have metrics that you would determine would help you prioritize?
Not specific metrics, no. However, the Transportation Improvement Plan outlines specifically where we need to make investments, and I believe that the mayor's office has done a good job in determining where those investments are needed, and it would be our job on the committee to sort of check that and make sure that that is being completed in an equitable and fair way.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
Anything further from the committee? Is there anything that we haven't asked you that you would like us to take into consideration?
I'm all good.
All right, perfect. We'll move to a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? We've got 7 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have the nominee from Councilmember Quinn Evans Siegel, Claudio Moss. Am I pronouncing your name right?
Massa.
Massa, okay. Mr. Massa, would you like a parking validation? Or
Yes, I
Dr.
would.
Massa, rather. That's right. Are you currently a Davidson County resident?
Yes, sir.
And do you serve on any other boards or commissions other than what you're being appointed to here today?
No, I do not.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about why you want to serve on this board.
I moved to Nashville about 20 years ago, and I've seen a huge amount of change in that time. And generally, I feel like much of that change has been very positive. However, I do believe that Nashville is at a real inflection point as it grows as a city, and has to make some very hard decisions on how we move people around. It's clear that with the funding mechanism now secured, or at least a funding mechanism now secured, there are going to be some very hard decisions to make on how you balance competing needs among the many districts that we have here at 35 throughout Nashville. And I think that from my vantage point and my experience, I am well positioned to be able to see multiple points of view. I feel like I've been code switching for much of my life as an immigrant, and being very active in the Tennessee Immigrant and Refugee Rights Coalition. I understand some of the particular challenges faced by people who are very reliant on public transportation. As a professor at Vanderbilt University and living in Councilmember Cash's district, I also know that there are a fair number of folks who are blessed and lucky enough to be able to live close enough to walk to work or bike to work. I myself, I bike to work. I'm stationed actually at the labs in Metro Center, so I come down Music Road to Mumbrian and then over on the Greenway. So I'm on a bike probably about 3 days a week. Today with the wind and the rain, I decided not to. I didn't want to show up here wet in case it started early. I've been able to see things from many different vantage points and points of view. I think I have a clear and logical ability to analyze a problem. I've had good exposure to other cities that have functioning transit systems, and I hope to be able to bring that expertise to Nashville because I love this place and I want to see it turn the right way.
So one of the things that I like to ask folks who work within the medical industry is looking at things at a health and all policies perspective. And so how do you view health policy playing into the way that we administer our public health or our public transportation system?
Yeah, so it's clear that cities that walk more are healthier, all other things being controlled. It's very difficult to take a city designed, and it's not just a city because we have lots of outlying areas where it would be impossible to walk to a job downtown from Jolton. But clearly walking is important as a public health issue. The other thing that's important is frankly the air pollution caused by cars. If you want to make your air cleaner, get rid of sort of the main sources, the primary sources of pollution. And we know that actually particulates in the air and other pollutants in the air trigger higher rates of stroke in the long term, higher rates of heart disease, as well as acutely respiratory issues. And it's important that we have certain areas of the city that have historically been disadvantaged and have had insufficient political power to protect themselves, and some of our most polluting sources come and are still in those areas. So we have to be cognizant as we build out a transit system to be equitable to all of Nashville.
Vice Chair Cash.
Thank you. As Claudio mentioned, he's a District 18 constituent, and he and I run into each other around, not collide, but run into each other around the district, especially in Hillsborough Village. And I know that and we talk about things that we see that are shortcomings. I know you have good ideas and are informed and are passionate about, I guess, infrastructure making logical sense. And I appreciate those conversations. And I want to ask, like, when it comes to like deciding when we're choosing infrastructure, we've got a lot of goals, we've got a lot of things that we need to do. And when it comes to choosing what to fund, how much do you think public opinion should play a role in that? You know, like if there's a great place for a bike lane or some traffic calming or something along those lines, but maybe the people don't, and it makes sense, but maybe the people on that street don't want it. Like how do you grapple with what seems the most logical versus what people want or don't want?
So I can't be an iconoclast and say I will always do this one thing. I think you have to listen to all the points of view that are coming at it. If a majority wants something that is clearly unjust and dangerous to a few, there is some sort of protection that I think we or you as a governing group owe the citizens, whether or not they're in the majority. But also I think you have to be cognizant that there are some ideal things that might not be attainable, particularly if the majority of the people in an area are opposed to it. So I can't tell you that there's a hard and fast rule that always works, but it's important to get people together and hear all sides of it and try to get some sort of compromise between the groups, I believe.
Councilmember Evan Siegel, do you want to speak to your nominee?
Thank you, Chair, for recognizing me, even though I'm not on the committee. I've known Claudio for several years, and what I know is he cares deeply about the city. I tend to actually see him, I don't know if he knows this, but like whizzing down the road, and he is a very reflective gear. You know, he's a good doctor. He like takes safety first, and there is no cyclist, I think, in the city who is more reflective than Claudio while going down the street. So if you ever see somebody like whizzing by you and you're like, wow, that's really, nobody will miss that
Covered
person.
in yellow and
You-
reflective tape.
Yeah, you now know who it is. But I think having somebody who has a public health background, who is a doctor, who has served and led a board, you know, being chair of Turk and having that experience on a board for a new board is really important. I think he will serve the community and the board and the city very well in that capacity.
Thank you. Thank you. Anything further from the committee? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? 7 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, next we have John Leslie Smith, nominated by Councilmember Rawling Horton. Mr. Smith, would you like a parking validation?
I'm set, thank you.
Are you currently a Davidson County resident?
Yes.
And do you serve on any other board or commission other than what you're being appointed to here today?
I serve on 2 advisory committees within NDOT, but I don't think that counts, right? Because I haven't gone through this process.
I don't think
Before.
that counts.
There's no prohibition against members serving on more than one board or commission.
Perfect. Sounds good. All right, so tell us a little bit about why you want to serve on this advisory committee.
Sure, so kind of related to that qualification I just gave, so I work for Walk Bike Nashville as the advocacy manager. Through that work, I've had many opportunities to be involved in conversations about transportation, multimodal, and active transportation in our city, including serving currently on the Vision Zero Advisory Committee and the Multimodal Access Closure Advisory Committee, which is a mouthful, which is basically NDOT's in-house review of long-term right-of-way closures, sidewalk, bike lane, even car lane closures. I also served on the Mayor's Technical Advisory Committee for Choose How You Move, so I have been involved in this process from the outset in an advisory capacity. I don't necessarily consider myself a technical expert, but I did have an opportunity to serve on that committee, and I see myself as someone who has one foot in that technical world and one foot in the community engagement, community education world. So in addition to serving on the Technical Advisory Committee through my job at Walk Bike, I also put together a lot of community resources, educational materials to spread the word about this great program that now the majority of Nashvillians have supported. And like so many people have said, this is a multi-year engagement. We knew that our work did not begin, or it began with the referendum, it didn't end with it. And so one campaign that Walk Bike started out of our support or encouragement of the referendum was what we called Streets for People. And so I think I can speak about the transportation pieces of this, but I think really what we're talking about is this is the biggest capital project our city is going to undertake over the next decade. And so thus it is really a conversation about the kind of city we want to be in addition to the kind of transportation system that we want to have. Because our public right-of-way, our streets are our biggest public space. To the health question earlier, I think it's such a great question because we know, we feel it when we are in a built environment that is hostile to us. It so happens that the majority of our high-frequency transit routes are in built environments that are hostile for us because they are not built for people, right? They are built to move as many cars as fast as possible often, and that is why we have the highest number of fatalities on our pikes, because people are trying to get to businesses. They are getting on and off buses and crossing the street. So I see also Choose How You Move as the biggest Vision Zero project that we are going to undertake in the next 10 or 15 years. If we can cut in half, for example, the amount of fatalities on our pikes through this process, hopefully more, then that is going to make a significant impact in making our city safer, in addition to making it easier for people to get around. And I think also, encourage small business development, encourage people to want to stay and linger in neighborhoods and build better community spaces as well. So I have many interests and passions related to this work. I was honored to be nominated by my council member for this, and yeah, happy to answer any questions that you all have.
Perfect. So something that piqued my interest, so you mentioned Streets for People, and I know that sometimes within our downtown corridor, there are certain streets that are closed off to car traffic, and that prioritize pedestrian traffic. Are there any other areas of Nashville that you can think of, and I'm putting you on the spot, that you can think of off the top of your head that would be appropriate for that kind of shift in how we manage our infrastructure of like, for either periods of time or permanently closing it off to car traffic and prioritizing other modes of transportation?
Absolutely. I think that falls a little bit outside the purview of Choose How You Move, but I will say, I won't give a specific example, but I will say we also have an Open Streets program. We're working with NDOT and going to release a toolkit actually in April that will allow folks to apply for those closures. You can right now, but it's not very well known. On various different scales. So if you want to do a neighborhood block party that only closes your street in front of your house, there's a relatively easy process right now to do that, all the way up to a neighborhood festival where you close down maybe a bigger road for a Sunday afternoon to encourage foot traffic and, you know, build partnerships with those businesses, get the community out there and stuff like that. So a little bit outside the purview, but I would love to talk more about that. In a different context.
Absolutely. Vice Chair Cash.
Wesley was a student of mine at Hume Fogg, and because of that, I got to brag on him a little bit. He did. I don't remember if you were. I had you in class, but I remember mainly like he did Model UN and Youth in Government, and I think as a freshman or maybe a sophomore, like early at a early stage, like you got an outstanding speaker award, which was kind of rare at the lower grade levels. And he had fun, I think, but it was all like serious and took the work very seriously. Also, we worked together a little bit on the MAC committee, the Multimodal Access Committee, or I was working on legislation to get it going, and you Walk Bike Nashville was hammering through that, and I was willing to sponsor. But my question is, like, how is your work on that? If you want to kind of define it for the folks a little better, that's fine. But how has your work on that maybe informed how you might approach choices to make on this committee?
Sure. I think it comes back to having a foot in the technical side and a foot on the community side with yes. Yeah. So with the multimodal access closures that we look at, you know, obviously there are times, and what it is an exception program. NDOT looks at sometimes because of construction constraints, you need to close a sidewalk, for example, for a period of time, or a bikeway. What that committee has done, I think, quite effectively was in the past it was just, okay, you can close it and you don't have to provide accommodations that are appropriate given the context and the foot traffic and stuff like that. That has begun to change for the most part, and I think that's a very small scale example, but I think that applies at scale to a project of this size, of Choose How You Move, is especially, I know there was a little bit of conversation about the prioritization of pikes. I think that's an ongoing conversation. I know council passed a resolution specifically kind of naming some concerns about Nolensville being lower on the list or later in the timeline, and so I think those conversations need to continue, and if there are choices that have to be made, if something that is then accountable to the public. This was a ballot initiative. People are aware of what it is. Are we being as communicative and transparent as possible through the process? I think the advisory committee is going to play a very important role in holding the mayor's office and the staff that's going to work on this project to the commitments that they have made. If that answers your question.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Anything further from the committee? Councilmember Horton, do you, sorry,
Documenting this moment.
Yeah, do you want to speak to your nominee?
I'm very proud to nominate District 20's own Wesley Smith on this. I think, like he said, he's got a very well-rounded resume, both on the community side and the technical side. He's been a great benefit to our district and the whole city as part of Walk Bike, and I think he would be a great fit for this role as well.
Perfect. Anything further from the committee? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? 7 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. Thank you so much. Thank you. Next, we have the nominee by Councilmember Rutherford of Matt Ingram. Matt, thanks for being here. Would you like a parking validation?
Yes.
Thank you. Are you currently a Davidson County resident?
Yes,
And do you serve on any other boards or commissions other than what you're being appointed to here today?
not for Metro.
Okay, perfect. Tell us a little bit about why you want to serve.
Yeah, so, my interest in this, to be very transparent, when this plan was brought forth in the beginning, was a little hesitant. Just seeing, where the funding mechanism was coming from, how it was being implemented, what parts of the county were going to get the most bang for the buck out of it. As it went on in talking to several different people, realizing Nashville needs something. This is the first step into it. So my mind gradually changed over time, realizing if we didn't do anything, we're just going to be in the same pattern we've been in for the last 50 years, and it's going to get worse. While not a perfect plan, it's a starting point. So my interest really does come into serving on this committee with seeing that the entire county can be benefited with, equality throughout or equity throughout, where downtown doesn't get all of it and then Bellevue just gets a little smattering here and there. But that way it's an interconnected process across the entire county. Everyone's benefiting from the downtown core out to, the countryside, out to the airport.
So I'm curious, like, you spoke to some of the skepticism, which, like, you're not unique in that. I think everybody had a healthy level of skepticism. What are some areas of improvement that you think that we could implement within the structure of the Choose How You Move plan?
I think right now it's just going to be in identifying where to start. Some of the plan indicates already, we're going to focus on these core areas. Someone said earlier, their area, it's going to be another 15 years before it gets out there. So trying to analyze and figure out, is that the best way, is what's been laid out the most efficient way, or can we start somewhere else that would be better beneficial and then move it in?
Councilmember Rutherford, do you want to speak to your nominee?
Certainly. I've come to know Matt over the last few years, and I know he has a career in human resources, so he knows people and the needs of people. And I also had the experience of traveling with Matt on a Sister Cities trip to Belfast, Northern Ireland, and we actually rode mass transit together in Belfast. And so he is well-traveled and has the experience of being able to compare not only the needs of mass transit from around the country, but also around the world. And so I think he'd be of a great benefit to this commission.
Anything from the committee? Do you want to respond to what Councilmember Rutherford said?
I thank you for the kind words. Traveling with Councilman Rutherford was
Really terrible, wasn't it?
he never got lost once. He always stood back there, acting as security. There comes improvement. Like you said, we took Belfast Transit. They've got a fantastic, public transit system that runs all day, all night, every day of the week. That same Belfast group that we met while we were there were just here last week. And the firsthand experience of trying to get them from the airport to the Sheraton downtown and shuffle them to Belmont or Green Hills, you realize they're used to having a transit system that they can hop on a bus and go here and there. And we had to shuffle around and be like, who has free cars? Do you have a spouse that doesn't have anything? We need their car as well. So having that experience and, just experience their transit, then seeing what we had to do to get them around Nashville is not unique to what we're having to face. I come into work from out Donaldson Way into downtown. I'm sitting in my car. I would love to be able to hop that bus, hop that train, and get down here in a much more efficient manner.
Anything further from the committee? Seeing none, we'll move to vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? 7 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, next we have the nominee by Councilmember or Chair Porterfield of Isaac Swafford. Thanks so much for being here. Would you like a parking validation? Yeah, please. Thank you. Are you currently a Davidson County resident?
Yes.
And do you serve on any other boards or commissions other than what you're being appointed to
No.
do today? Okay. So tell us a little bit about why you want to serve.
Yeah, there are a few reasons I want to serve. First of all, community service is something that runs in my family. Between my two grandparents, like they have over 50 years, and you know, serve as Metropolitan employees. And my father is a U.S. Army veteran and grew up in Belshire, and he's worked at the same job in Whites Creek for as long as I've been alive. And so, you know, I sad to say that not just the community service runs my family, and it's something I want to get back to my own way, but also that, you know, that experience of a working class upbringing is something that's stuck with me, and it's the reason why issues that people may not think about in the context of this transit plan, such as like childcare that's accessible, things like creating working class jobs that pay livable wages. These are very important to me when we think through the way we make investments in the city. And so, you know, I think there's tons of qualified, I've heard, everything that I've heard from people, it's tons of qualified candidates for this position, and thinking through the transit improvement plan. Something that I want to bring is thinking holistically about how we're doing development, right? We've talked about how a lot of Nashvillians feel that the growth in the city is not something that they've shared in, and so I want to be there to be advocating. And so beyond my personal background, I feel that I'm uniquely suited for this position because not only do I bring the research area expertise, I'm also bringing, again, that community engagement work. So over the past year and a half, I've spent several hundred hours digging into the transit improvement plan, thinking especially how it can provide opportunities when it comes to affordable housing, good jobs, again, childcare, grocery access, all these important issues to working class people in the city. And you know, in August we had a big transit coalition public event. We had over 100 community members show out to that and tell us. We asked them, you know, what, as part of this plan, you know, what kind of investments do you want to see in your community? What would help solve your issues, right? Because we're living through a cost of living crisis. And we took that community feedback and we took the research that I did, and that is what, you know, that is what became the Shift Coalition policy platform. And so, but since then, I've held numerous community meetings in Black, brown, and working class neighborhoods across the county, helping with them create a community vision for what they want to see as part of, you know, these 26 public acres in the transit plan and around the transit centers. I've been on News Channel 5 to raise public awareness around these decisions, and so, you know, we're going to continue having those meetings and stuff. And so, you know, that's what I wanted to bring is you all know that this committee is expected to provide not just expertise, but also community feedback, right? And so I think that, you know, I bridge that gap and bring a much needed holistic approach when we're talking about development as well as that transit infrastructure. So,
Talk to us a little bit more about the Shift Coalition.
yeah, so it's a coalition of advocacy and community organizing groups in the town, in the city. You know, the things that we are paying attention to, as I've talked about, is, you know, economic equity. Are we creating jobs that are paying people a living wage so they can stay in the city, right? When we're doing these developments, you know, there's going to be huge major improvements on corridors, and that's going to bring a lot of growth and development, and that's great. But again, how do we make sure that we're bringing the community in on the front end and not the back, just to approve what's made, right? And so that they're participating in that growth. You know, I didn't mention this, but I've, you know, worked on workforce development initiatives in the city, helping with the Music City Construction Careers Program. So, like, are we incorporating strategies like that, right? And so, yeah, our policy platform effectively it covers, you know, those economic equity issues and jobs, housing, of course. Just, I think the biggest thing though is, again, like, are we doing the work of educating the community on these decisions being made and giving them opportunity on the front end to tell us, you know, what is it that we need in the city, right? So.
Yeah, hey, Christopher, what you tell me a little bit more. You're talking about growth in the city and equitable. Can you sort of expand on that a little bit? It's not the same, and we need more equitable growth in housing. What is your thoughts?
Yeah, as we've talked about, right, like Nashville has had tons of economic growth over the past 10, 15 years, but have we seen, you know, affordability, wages, the kinds of jobs people can have. Like, I think what we've seen is a lot of the reason why Murfreesboro and Nolensville is some of our highest ridership and things like that is because people have been pushed out from the urban core to places like Antioch and Southeast where it's more affordable. And we're seeing, congestion and development in places there. But, so I think that, how do we have growth but also have opportunities for people to stay, live, and work in the county, make enough money to pay rent, right? And not just see, more gentrification, displacement, right? So that's kind of what I have in mind.
Anything further from the committee? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? That's 7 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. Thank you so much.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Right, next we have the nominee by Chair Vo, Rashid Fakhruddin.
He's not eligible.
Did he? Okay.
It's Morgan, Dr. Morgan.
Okay. That's gonna be withdrawn.
And
Okay, both of these are withdrawn, okay.
I think she was withdrawn and he was not qualified.
He withdrew as well, okay. Okay, next we are moving to the nominee by Councilmember Coopin of Morgan, Reinberg? Renberg, thank you, perfect. Mr. Renberg, would you like a parking validation?
No, thank you.
Okay, perfect. Are you currently a Davidson County resident?
Yes, sir.
And do you serve on any other boards or commissions other than what you're being appointed to here today?
No, sir.
Perfect. So tell us a little bit about why you want to serve.
Yeah, from my 16th birthday through my mid-20s, I was like most folks. I went to the car as my first opportunity to get around. I don't think I even got on public transportation until I was in my 20s. But in my 20s, I got a medical condition that has permanently stopped me from being able to drive. And so since then, I've had to sort of reinvent my life and restructure where I live, where I work, what I do for fun, based around the ability to get to the things that I need and want to be able to do. I live downtown, despite the fact that it's really expensive, despite the fact that my wife would like to have a garden, because that's the only place you can live and have really good bus service today. I take the 52 to work, I take the 50 to the dentist, the 7 to the doctor, the 3 to Centennial Park. There's nowhere else you can do that. Choose How You Move's changing that, right? We're gonna build all these transit centers, we're gonna have cross-town routes. It's gonna make a different life for people like me possible in a way that it isn't right now in Nashville. This is the first time that I've wanted to put myself into public service, and it's because I know that these metro committees are often underrepresenting people with disabilities, and I think this committee in particular really needs to have folks who live and die basically on their ability to use public transportation in the city. And so I feel like I have a unique opportunity where I've been a driver for a number of years. Now I'm exclusively a public transportation rider. And I think, Choose How You Move is working on both sides, right? We're gonna upgrade signals to make sure that traffic flowing out of downtown during events, flowing in to workplace areas during the day actually flows. We're gonna be adding sidewalks for people who need that to get around, and of course, all the changes to WeGo as well. And so I think it's important that we have perspectives that say there are two sides to this. There's the needs of many people who are gonna drive almost exclusively in the city, but also we have to make sure that we're building something that works for the people who really rely on these systems.
Perfect. Yeah. So one of the things that I've talked about with folks around my community is the efficacy of WeGo's access rides, especially for like elderly and differently able folks. I've often lamented at times at some of the shortcomings of that program that we have. What are some areas that you specifically see within this plan that specifically address the need for our aging population, those who are differently able?
Yeah, well, I think the sidewalks are really important. Aging population may be more likely to be in a wheelchair, more likely to be using a walker. Of course, you have young families that might be more likely to be using a stroller or something like that. And as one of the previous nominees mentioned, all our high-capacity corridors basically have no sidewalks. And so the people who are most likely to be using that are having to, walk through the grass or kind of from parking lot to parking lot just to get to the bus stop. And that's not conducive to having a good experience, and it's also not a safe way to get around. So I think it's maybe kind of a little under recognized, the value that those sidewalks are going to add to the system. And then I think having the crosstown service is also going to make a big difference. If you're somebody who is elderly or somebody who's maybe ill in a way that makes long trips challenging, if you got to go all the way from your house to downtown, wait at the central station for a while before you can take a bus taking you maybe 80% of the way back in the direction that you went, just on a different route, that's a tiring trip. And if you're going to the doctor every week because you're getting dialysis or something like that, that's a huge amount of your life that's being spent just going back and forth. Those crosstown services, the local stations that'll be much more likely to be in your neighborhood are going to allow you to be much more effective at getting around and get that treatment that you need without having to take a whole day off work just to do that.
I'm curious as to what the average day of an astrophysicist looks like, but I'll ask you that after the Councilmember Coopin, do you want to speak to your nominee?
That's a great tie-in and humor me, but Dr. Renberg has his PhD in astrophysics and planetary science, and he worked on the Cassini mission to Saturn. So he is a rocket scientist. And when Choose How You Move expands to space travel, he can lead those efforts. No, but seriously, you've heard him talk about his disability and how that affects his need to navigate the transit system. And as someone who's got a family member who is in a wheelchair, that's really close to my heart, to make sure that everybody can access the bus and has a perspective on what that's like for someone who doesn't choose to use the bus, but actually has to use that transit system, and what those conveniences are and how that frequency impacts, how sidewalks impact. So I think he's going to bring a phenomenal amount of experience to this group, and I think he's going to bring a unique perspective that's really important to a lot of Nashvilleians.
Flying buses.
Yeah.
Going to space, baby.
Uh, Thank you for that. I want to ask about your transit experience. So, like the Choose How You Move, we have talked about. You mentioned as well, like about changing the routes, crosstown, more routes, more frequency, stuff like that. But kind of the global like map and services stuff aside, like, is there anything that's come to you as a transit rider, like this would make my riding experience more pleasant or enjoyable? Is there anything that stands out as like, here's some like micro suggestions rather than macro, I guess?
For sure. Yeah. So I get on the bus to work downtown at the first station after the downtown station. That bus, the 52, often arrives 6 or 7 minutes late, one stop in. How's that possible, right? The schedule should be adjusted. It's happening every time. The schedule should be adjusted so we're at least getting the first stop done on time, because how can we ever catch up if we're starting off that far back? The automated announcement in the bus often doesn't play. I can't see very well, and so I rely a lot on the ability to know what stop my is, and if that little light up board is not actually reading out verbally the announcements, that's a problem. Doesn't impact me, but most of our bus stops outside of downtown don't have benches. If you're somebody who has difficulty standing, if you got to wait for a bus that might be coming only every 30 minutes, and you missed it because there was a traffic jam at the intersection as you were trying to cross the street, that's a long time to have to stand at a station without a cover, without a bench. Those are the kinds of things that I think in the scheme of this $1 billion plus project aren't going to cost a lot of money, but they're going to make dramatic improvements to the people who are on the system every day. Getting things to work, plopping down a bench, those are the things that help convince people to actually get on the bus for the first time, and then for people who are always on it, those are the ones that allow them to not devote all their mental energy just to kind of making those that trip work.
Thank you.
Anything further from the committee? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? 7 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. Thank you so much, Dr. Renberg.
Thank you.
Next, we have Amy Scruggs, nominated by Councilmember Huff. Ms. Scruggs, thank you so much for being here. Would you like a parking nomination?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Are you currently a Davidson County resident?
I am.
And do you serve on any other boards or commissions other than what you're being appointed to here today?
I don't.
Perfect. So tell us a little bit about why you want to serve.
So I'm a recent empty nester, and I have a little bit more time on my hands than I anticipated. And I think the transit appeals to me because it touches every citizen of Davidson County, whether you're a driver, a transit rider, kids. And I think what an opportunity to help promote that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so you've been hearing a lot of things from a lot of different folks.
Yeah.
So sort of share us a little bit more about your perspective on sort of the implementation of the Choose How You Move program.
Well, you always see things from your own perspective, and I'm thinking of reducing the number of cars on the road. I think I'm a citizen who would, doesn't really take advantage of transit as often as I could or should. The Star, for example, I would love to take that downtown and not have to think about parking when I want to participate in some event. And I think just getting the word out, I think honestly a lot of people, it sounds crazy, but I think a lot of people don't think about it. They aren't aware of the Choose How You Move program. They're not aware of the opportunities that are available. So I think that's really important.
Perfect. Councilmember Huffman, do you want to speak to your nominee?
Yeah, first off, Amy brings very, very, very valuable insights to this from her perspective as an empty nester and as someone who has not regularly taken transit. There are so many that are in our community that fit that category that are intimidated by it, that choose to not ride it because they think that the bus time is too long or there are not covered bus shelters. That it's really important to have that perspective on such a board so that we can account for all of our residents. So I was proud to nominate her, and I think she'll do great.
Anything from the committee?
Just real quick, I appreciate what you said about, honest that you haven't ridden the bus a lot, but you think you should. And I think that to me, the first step is like that trip downtown when there's parking involved or like you just know it's gonna be like,
Right.
and you could be doing emails or something. And I think like that's the first step to get more people on the bus and
Yes.
to relieve the roads of traffic is that trip to the downtown core, reduce cars there, and I think it spirals out and helps everything. I appreciate you saying that.
Absolutely. Anything further from the committee? Nope. Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting?
Mr. Chairman, do I need to abstain on this nomination?
Okay, so we've got 6 in favor, 0 against, 1 not voting. Thank you so much.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Next on the agenda, we have Amber Johnson, which has been withdrawn, as well as Jeremiah Wooten, who has also been withdrawn. Next is David Harris, nominated by Councilmember Gamble. So Harris, thank you so much for being here. Would you like a parking validation?
Yes, please.
Here you go. Are you currently a Davis County resident?
I am.
Perfect. And do you serve on any other boards or commissions other than what you're being appointed to here today?
No, sir.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about why you want to serve.
Well, first of all, I actually work for WeGo Public Transit. And I've been in that capacity for the last 18 years. I came in on the ground floor. I've done everything from cleaner to now administration. I've watched the growth of WeGo Public Transit, and I'm sorry to hear about the misunderstanding about some of the comfortability of WeGo, because most recently we celebrated the 300th bus shelter that was located on, I believe it's Fairview and Clarksville Highway, as well as the expansion of Clarksville Highway. I was able to witness that. I watched WeGo come from being on Dedrick Street. It was a well-oiled machine even when it was over there. If you were to ever look at that, when you were there at night, you would see the precision that things were done over at that center to evolve over into our Music City Central, now the Elizabeth Duff Center. I've worked in Chicago Transit. I also worked with the Conference of Minority Transportation Officials, Think Transit, which is the technical component of a lot of our technical conference that we attend often in getting the understanding of the technical, the ins and outs. I came into supervision 17 years ago, and we were using a system that was prehistoric, to say the least, and now we've evolved into new transit technologies, which is making our system mature. There are people, I did hear other things such as the services with the STAR. The STAR has improved greatly, and we could improve it even more. But I've been, like I said, from the grassroots of working with the Cumberland region, and which is what is it called? The Cumberland region to Morrow, which is a 10 county summit that we attend on a regular basis, talking about how we're going to improve services, not to just include Davidson County, but the counties that surround Davidson County. So I've always been interested from the day I came in, and they asked me, they said, well, you've been a substance abuse counselor, you've done business agent for a union, you've done all these other things, how did driving a bus fit? I said, well, driving a bus really doesn't fit, but it's an inroad into transportation, and I've continued to grow in that area. I'm the one person that's here to seek this nomination who works inside the trenches. I've worked with 2 different administrations at We Go Transit, as well as community organizing. I'm a member of Tomorrow's Hope Neighborhood Association. Worked with the River West when Mayor Parcell was the advocate for the community advocacy with his wife, Debbie Miller, during that time. I've been a lot of grassroots things with the community. I currently work with NOAA as well. I work with different organizations, not just because I want to be around providing, I'm interested in the people. The people are what's going to matter. But what's going to improve this transit plan is going to be how do we reach those people who are giving us trouble in the transit system. We just came up over at WeGo with the new safety strategy with the captain from Metro government to provide a safer place. Because if you don't have a safe place, I don't care how much service you have, no one's going to trust it. And I can honestly say that I watched the implementation and the building of the new Dr. Ernest Rip Patton Jr. Transit Center, which is a center that I now manage over on a day-to-day basis. So with that transit center, I know what it's like. I am the one person that I realized that's here, that's working in the industry, that understands the industry from a lot of different components. I worked with my council lady when then MTA took away the one route that we had providing service to Hunters Lane and Whites Creek High School. As soon as it happened, I was able to contact her. She has a great working relationship with our administration, and they were able to put another bus in service to not only provide frequency to those areas, but to provide frequency to the Skyline area and to the Madison corridor in the Rivergate area. So I am that person who, like I said, is here to make the difference from the roots of transportation.
Absolutely. I think your experience truly, truly speaks for itself, because I think you have a vast amount of institutional knowledge that will be of a net benefit that is needed for the implementation of a board like this. I guess you talked about the sort of collective of the surrounding counties that we work with in providing service. I'll say anecdotally, like in the firm that I work in, there's a person that I was having a conversation with, and we were talking about how she takes the bus in from Montgomery County every single day to work in downtown Nashville. And so how do you sort of talk to us a little bit more about those specific services, how it interplays with the Choose How You Move, and how we can provide greater access to those who both live and work here in Nashville?
Well, really, first thing we want to do is stop the money from leaving Davidson County going into the surrounding suburbs. Yes, there are people that are gonna move out, but we have more people moving in. So the service that we do have is a comfortable service, so we don't wanna deplete it, we just wanna improve upon it. So I can really say, let me understand that question again, if you don't mind repeating that.
Yeah, so sort of just talking about how, looking at the services that we'll provide both internally and externally, and making sure that there's access for folks who both live and work here in Nashville.
Okay, I'll say this. And this is referring back to one of my potential colleagues that was talking about the paratransit. That service is impeccable. I'll say, we have the crosstown routes that we spoke of, saving time. That's what's going to cause us to be able to improve the service. Coming from Chicago, working in the transit system there, the crosstown is what saves time, energy, and money for our constituents. So will probably be the building, that'll probably be the strongest building that we'll be able to see happening the soonest. That'll probably be the first thing that we will see, is that our riders will be pleased with the opportunity not to have to go downtown. Some of them have a fear of simply going to the Elizabeth Duff Center. We're actually working on getting that peace of mind back, because we're doing great things with that. But I can, I'm not sure if I was able to answer your question, but with the crosstown connectors, with the transit centers that are proposed and will come into fruition, I think that will make a dramatic difference, because for one, you'll have services being provided from all over the city, people being able to access those services without the big clutter. And that's where most of your problems come in, is when you got a whole lot of people in a centralized area versus spreading them out. And I think the spreading out as well as providing quality service will make the difference.
Absolutely. Thank you. Councilmember Gamble, do you want to speak to your nominee?
Thank you, Chair Prep T. Definitely, I would like to speak for my nominee. I've known David for about 8 years. Even before I was elected, I came to know him as a community advocate, attending community meetings. As he said, when it came to our Route 23 or 43 being cut, which serviced 2 high schools in our city, he contacted me right away. What can we do to get this back? And helped me work with WeGo, Councilmember Van Reese at the time, and getting that Crosstown route for 79, which we have, which has been very productive and very useful for us in the city. So in addition to his expertise and experience working for WeGo as an operations manager for 18 years, he also brings that community advocacy piece to it that I think would be a great asset to the board.
Thank you. Anything further from the committee?
I do. I think you've just in a few short minutes shown why you're eminently qualified. Your great resume. You're obviously passionate and think outside the box and know it inside and out. I feel the need to ask a question of staff, because we have, and maybe I'm misunderstanding here, and I want to make sure that I'm not. Like, we've had 2 other nominees that were it says on here not eligible because they work for Metro, and so I'm trying to understand if this situation is different or.
Yes. So it's my understanding that Mr. Harris works for the Davidson Transit Organization, and the Davidson Transit Organization is a separate entity that MTA contracts with to do their operations and basically run all the buses and the terminals, exchange terminals, or whatever they're called. I can't remember.
Good news. Good news.
They are separate from, he's not a Metro employee.
Okay. Good news. Thank you.
One other thing, I think when I was a liaison between Metro schools, and we provided services over at Hume Fogg, if I'm not mistaken. You were the one I would see in the office when you would have challenges, and you would have challenges with some of the students, or coming in, bringing them their passes that they lost, or items that they lost. I remember coming over there, seeing you. I was trying to place where I knew you from when I saw you in the hall. Now I know where it is.
Thank you. I appreciate the clarity on that, because since we had those other 2, I just wanted to be sure that everything was good.
Absolutely. Perfect. Anything further from the committee? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? Got 7 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes, I do need, I got it. Thank you.
Okay, next we move to the CATV Special Committee reappointment of Tim Garrett for a term expiring on March 1st, 2028. Mr. Garrett?
Yes.
Yes. Perfect. You can have a seat. Would you like a parking
Please,
validation?
yes, sir. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Are you currently a Davidson County resident?
I am.
Perfect. And do you serve on any other boards or commissions other than what you're being reappointed to here today?
I do not. I'm on the planning commission for Forest Hill. That's the only other.
Yeah, I don't think that affects us.
Yeah, right.
So tell us a little bit about why you want to continue to serve.
Well, I've been asked, which is a good sign. I've been on the CATV Special Committee for, I don't even know how many years, but several of the renegotiations of the contracts. And I think that I bring some organizational memory, and institutional memory to it. And I think that's what I bring to the table. And I think that's why they'd like for me to continue. I've served as either chair or vice chair several occasions. And I have contractual experience as a lawyer negotiating contracts.
Perfect. Awesome. And are there any sort of challenges that you all have faced on the committee moving forward that you see continuing that you want to continue to try and address?
Yeah, I'm not sure we can really address it. Legislatively, we've lost a lot of leverage. So that's been the biggest change, frankly. And, obviously we can't set rates, and that's not something we can do. But we also lost the leverage because of the state statute that allowed some others to come in without coming through Metro as a franchise and do it at a statewide level. And there's really not much we can do about that.
Understandable. Okay. Anything from the committee? Well, your experience speaks for itself, and I've said it a number of times. I think that every single board and commission and legislative body benefits from having attorneys on there. So you've got
sometimes.
Yeah. So thank you for your continued willingness to serve.
Yeah, I guess it depends.
Yeah.
Some might debate that.
Yes, I'm sure there's a few here. Anything further from the committee? Seeing none, we'll move to vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? 7 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. Thank you so much.
Thank you. May I be excused?
Yes. Next, we have the Emergency Communication District Board reappointment of Carolyn B. Tucker for a term expiring February 14th, 2029. Ms. Tucker, thank you so much. Would you like a parking validation?
Yes, please. Thank you. Give it to my husband.
So, Dr. Tucker, are you currently a Davidson County resident?
Yes, I am.
And do you serve on any other boards or commissions other than what you're being reappointed to here today? Okay, perfect. Tell us a little bit about why you want to continue serving.
Well, I think the Emergency Communications Board is one that is essential. It's essential for all of Nashville and Davidson County. And this board provides needed services in that it continues to require different excellencies to be reached by the persons who are actually providing the services. This, in like manner, it is important because our citizens of Nashville and Davidson County need to know that there is a continuous upgrade of services so that there are no gaps within the services that are provided. When a person calls 911, they should be able to receive immediate assistance, otherwise they wouldn't call it. And so I want to continue to work with that board because I think it's making a difference in Nashville and Davidson County. In like manner, there is Rex who goes to the schools. I am a lifelong educator, and so I had opportunity as a principal to have encounters with Rex 911 to teach our children. And you start at the early ages. And if you have if you have prevention, you don't have to try to seek a cure. And so therefore, teaching children early the responsibilities of 911 and what they can do and how they can facilitate dealing with emergencies is something that's key.
Absolutely. I think first and foremost, your resume speaks for itself. And I am very thankful that you are willing to continue serving, because I think that you bring a lot of institutional knowledge and background to the specific board. And I really like what you talked about those early interventions with children and teaching them like how specifically to utilize 911. And because unfortunately across the nation, I think there have been a number of circumstances both in and outside of the media where we've seen children needing to utilize 911, being able to do it effectively or not effectively.
And as a principal, I experienced that. Rescue Rex had just been to our school about a month earlier, and one of our students ended up. Now this was back in the '80s, but this was the kind of the initial part of Rescue Rex. No, it was the latter part of the '90s, and this particular instance, a child saw his mother actually in the process of dying, and because she'd been ill for a while, and he did not panic. He picked up the phone, he called 911, and he gave the instructions and gave the address so clearly. Afterwards, we were invited, school went out, and that group of 911 dispatch callers were able to take up a collection for that young man because he then was orphaned because that was his really grandmother. And they kept it in a bond and we presented it to him when he was 17 years old, when he was at the Monroe Carroll Center.
Thank you.
It's important.
Yeah, thank you for the work that you do. Anything further from the committee?
You brought back a fond memory of Rescue Rex coming to the council chamber last term.
Yes, I was there.
Yes, so thank you for bringing that program to the schools. It's really good.
Anything further from the committee? Seeing nothing, we'll take a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? 7 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. Thank you so much, Dr.
Thank you.
Tucker.
May I be?
Yes, please.
All set.
Absolutely.
We'll be here till about 11 if you want to stick around.
Yeah.
And remind yourself.
That's optimistic, I think.
Wishful thinking.
Oh, I forgot to show you too, we had a news release yesterday about the report that had been put out and the excellency of the 911 Office Department of Communications. Excellent, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See everybody.
Thank you so much. Okay, next we have the National Education, Community and Art Television Board reappointments of Shauna Lynn. Say your last name for me as well.
Brandmeier.
Brandmeier, thank you.
It's a double whammy.
Perfect, thank you so much. Would you like a parking validation?
Thank you.
Are you currently a Davidson County resident?
Yes.
And do you serve on any other board or commission other than what you're being reappointed to here today?
No, I do not.
Perfect, Ms. Brandmeier, tell us a little bit about why you want to continue serving.
Sure. Shauna Brandmeier. I have been on the NECAT board since, I was thinking about this earlier today, since 2019. So I've been with NECAT since it went through the pandemic. We worked to keep our virtual doors open. Now we've reopened the doors and we're now part of the library as well. So we've had a lot of transition. So there's still some things I'd like to accomplish now that we've come through the emergency and I'm more out in the community, more active in the arts community. It's really a unique place. If you haven't been, please come out and see it. It's out on White Bridge Road. We're the 3 access channels, and then of course the Metro channel. So arts, education, and access television.
So you said that there was a couple more things that you wanted to
Yeah,
accomplish.
absolutely.
Share more. Yes.
Well, so there's actually an event coming up on March 22nd at the library. Feature documentary film that we're doing in conjunction with the library on sustainability. So that's one, and then we also have our annual fundraiser coming up on in July. So I serve as the current NECAT board chair as well. So.
Anything from the committee?
I do.
Yes.
She's my constituent. Bellevue's in my house.
Yes.
And I live in Bellevue.
I can't think of anybody better, and her perspective for the length of time that she's been on it It just speaks to, this is a no-brainer, folks.
And I'm an attorney, like the other guy, so that's a plus.
There we go.
And it's something different.
You already said something
different.
nice, yeah.
You know, it's in the arts community, so I get to put on a different hat.
I did not
but
leave that
Yeah.
on purpose.
I'll own it.
Perfect. Well, Ms. Brandmeier,
I
thank you for
remember
your
when you went through law school.
Yeah.
thank you for your willingness to continue serving. Anything further from the committee? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? Got 7 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All set.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's good to see you.
You too. Thank you.
Okay, next is also the Nashville Education Education, Community, and Arts Television Board reappointment of Sam Brooks.
So we're deferring him until next meeting.
Okay, so we've got, do we have a motion for a 1 meeting deferral?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and properly seconded. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? 7 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting for a 1 meeting deferral. And then next we also have the Sexual Oriented Business Licensing Board appointment of Mesu.
I'm not gonna try it.
Yeah, Keklik.
We're deferring him as well.
Okay, 1 meeting.
Yes, please.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and properly seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? We approve a 1 meeting deferral. Okay, next is board and commission confirmations. I believe these are folks that we have previously interviewed. So we will take them all up in one vote unless there's anybody wishes to, well, I'll go ahead and read them both into the record. The first one is the Arts Commission appointment of Brittany Cole for a term expiring on February 2nd, 2029, and the second is the Hospital Authority appointment of Dr. Chike Nazeru for a term expiring on July 1st, 2027. We'll take them both up at once unless anybody has any objection. Seeing no objection, we'll move to a vote. Those in, or do we have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Moved and properly seconded. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? 7 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. To approve. Okay, and then last but definitely not least, we have a proposed rule change. This is sponsor Huffman. A proposed rule change of Rule 9 to the rules and procedures of the council. Do I need to read the underlined portion? I don't think so. Okay. Perfect. Well, Councilmember Huffman, I'm going to recognize you to explain your proposed rule change.
Thank you, Chair. Good to be on this side for once. So, first I want to talk about why I'm proposing this. The second meeting of July, I advocated on first reading for people to vote against the chair's bill. And as soon as I hit my seat, I regretted doing that immediately, because it didn't feel right advocating for something to be voted down on first to not go through the legislative process. I had a conversation with Mr. Prepty about it, and apologized for doing that to him, because I wouldn't want anybody else to do that. So essentially, my thought here is you take the passion out of, you take the passion and the pettiness out of the potential of one member removing something off at first. This simply removes it to 2. I will say that there have been members this term that have said exactly that, which causes the need for the legislation, that there's going to be attempts to pull stuff off at first. I don't think this is anything that's going to get out of hand by any means, but I just want to put some guardrails just so that we can have some more efficient meetings, let things go through the legislative process. Now, with all that said, I do want to highlight that I am going to ask for a 1 meeting deferral, simply because there's an amendment that I'd like to add indicating that if a sponsor wants to remove something for any reason, that they can do that. So just some cleanup work on that.
So 1 meeting deferral.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion?
I'm just thinking out loud here, and like on the surface, it seems to make sense to me. I just wanna think through if there are any unintended consequences, like you really need to pull something off because it's a zoning thing and the calendar's like not quite right or something. And you're the sponsor, but it depends on somebody else also stepping up. And I think that isn't gonna be a problem most of the time, but I'm just thinking through what potential unintended consequences could mess up something that needs some attention to it, I guess.
And I
That makes
think,
sense.
and if I may, I think that's the intent of the proposed amendment, is so that it wouldn't have to be two members, so it could just be the sponsor being like,
I got you.
hey,
That's
yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, no, and that's a very good point. It's one of those things, it was an afterthought, more or less, so just trying to fix it now.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I have a quick question on that too. I noticed the two members requesting of or letting the vice mayor know ahead of time. Is that before a meeting or during the meeting that you're letting the vice mayor know that the intention of two members to do that?
It would be, I'm sorry, I didn't understand that.
Yeah, in the language about an ordinance on first reading may be considered separately if two or more members notify the vice mayor of their desire to take a separate vote.
Oh, that's.
Is that during Okay,
that's correct,
I just
yeah.
wanted clarification.
No,
on that.
that's a good question.
I had the same one.
Okay.
I can
It
clarify
probably
that
needs
as
to
well.
be cleaned up when you're cleaning it up.
Yeah, because
That's
I
no
think,
problem.
I think it would operate the same way of, a motion to suspend the rules on something and the vice mayor asking if, so, yeah, if I'm interpreting that correctly. Okay,
I'll add that, that's no problem.
Good.
I think it makes sense.
perfect. Any further discussion? Perfect. Thank you so much for bringing this. So we've got a motion for a one meeting deferral. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? 7 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. We come now to the adjournment. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And without objection, do we do now stay, oh, wait.
No, I'm just kidding.
Without objection, we stand adjourned.
I was born in April Fool's Day.